are live into the successful Bookkeeper Australia. Now, I've lost John. I've literally lost John. So hopefully John will find his way back into the meeting. That's hysterical. So today, welcome. Thanks for joining us today as you're linking in. And hi, Helen. Here he is. Thanks for joining us. Share your video. And today is all about cybersecurity. So I'm not quite sure what happened.
Hey, sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened either. We went live and my Zoom was like, no, we're not having it today, John. Sorry about that.
That's okay. The gremlins got in straight away. So
yeah,
very topical. So I was just just starting around the topic today, which is around cybersecurity and what you need to know to make sure that your business is protected, your information's protected, your clients are protected. Even talk about the responsibilities. There are insurable events as well that are within the bookkeeping industry. We will get to answer your questions if you've got any questions or any instances. We'll talk about some experiences that are happening within the bookkeeping industry at the moment. But I am just introduced John. So John's from Practice Protect. So him being the expert in cybersecurity and I just introducing the topics that of interest to bookkeepers. So thanks, John, for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me. Always good to catch up. I know we've done a couple of webinars, and sessions with you in the past, and they've always been good fun. It's been a good discussion.
Yeah, that's right. So this is pretty casual. We'll just talk through some things that pop up. Have some questions that are going through. So please pop your questions into the chat on Zoom. So you'll have the link if you're watching live. You can join us live on the Zoom or just watch the stream that's going through to Facebook. And pop your questions over there. We'll be monitoring the questions over in Facebook land as well. And for those that are on the Zoom call, love for you to pop some comments over into the Facebook land as well on the live stream post. So we can just keep that the conversation going, and others that are watching can see the conversation too. So Lou has put the link, or Lou will put the link to the Facebook stream live link into the Zoom as well. All right, so okay, so where do we start? I mean, it's such a big topic. And we were talking just before the session today around what's actually happening in the industry at the moment, which was the, what do you call it, the payment impersonation. So do you want to perhaps explain what that is?
Yes, that's one of the ones we're seeing a lot of, and I think it's a good place to start is on your first point. Is that it's such a big topic, and I do see and having the conversation with cybersecurity is that one of the risks around it is that it gets blown out into being too big of a topic and also too complicated. So often when I'm speaking to bookkeepers and I'm speaking to small businesses, it's about making sure that we're talking on security, but on like an approachable level. I think sometimes as techs or IT guys, there's a technical language that you can hide behind. But what I always try to do is avoid that. So when I'm talking about security, talking about the risks, just keeping it really practical and practical for small business as well. Because often you see the scams which make the headlines in the newspaper, like the ransomware that hit Colonial Pipeline, or the scams that hit Toll Group. They make the news, they make the headlines, but they don't make up the majority of the hacks. So the majority of the hacks are smaller. Obviously it's not, you're talking companies like that, it's millions of dollars. But for small businesses it's a smaller amount, but proportion to the business, it's has just as large an impact. But they're not the ones which are making their headlines, but we're seeing them happening so much more frequently. Obviously as scale, there's more smaller businesses out there being targeted. But one of the most common ones, scams which we're seeing at the moment, targeting bookkeepers, is payment impersonation scams. So we've been seeing a lot of those recently. So what that is it's where a bookkeeper's client would send them an email saying, look, hey, can you process this invoice for us? And then that would then, if they then pay that invoice, it would go to a fake bank account. So rather than being, the actual client bank account, it would go to, an illegitimate one there.
Yeah, and I was actually speaking to a bookkeeper just in the past week or two that actually had sent out an invoice had been sent out as a PDF. Somebody had captured that email and that PDF and changed the bank account and sent it on to the person that needed to pay it. So the person knew that the invoice was coming to pay it. But if they didn't ask that the bank account had been changed, they would have got caught out and paid the wrong bank account. That was just, just in the last couple of weeks. And I had heard that at a Xero conference a couple of years ago that, they had targeted some businesses, but just something that bookkeepers need to be aware of, that, we're always looking out for bank account changes. And some softwares tell us when major, main, especially payroll bank accounts are changed. You get a notification that's happened. So just being aware, I guess, and making our clients aware that it does happen. And if you are surprised that somebody's changed their bank account, then make that inquiry before you actually pay the bill.
Yeah, definitely. And like the reason why this is happening is because ultimately what's happened is, an email has been hacked. So, the hackers gotten into your client's email, so hacked into their 365 or Gmail. And then, from there, they can do, pretty much anything. They can impersonate them, or they can change details in emails. And that's what we're seeing is that, a hacker would break into an inbox. They don't just send out ransomware, straight away like they used to a few years ago. That was the most common one, would be someone's email gets hacked, ransomware gets sent out, done. But now hackers, they're getting smarter because the payoff is so much greater. We're talking about invoices for, I've heard of some, $50,000 to $100,000. So when you're talking about that substantial amount of money, the hackers are going to invest a substantial amount of time into that. It's a big opportunity for them. So what we're seeing is, when these fake invoices are being sent out, the hacker would do, one or two things. So the one which you've just mentioned there, Katrina, is they can set up rules, and you can configure these just in Outlook settings to have delay send. So, you'd press send on an email and then it would just go to a delay, get stuck in an outbox for 10 minutes. The hacker could go in, and if it's an invoice, just change any details and then it'd be sent, and it, wouldn't look like a scam email. And that's the reason why these kind of scams are so hard to protect against, is because they don't look like scams. They're coming from your clients, they're coming from trusted sources. And that's why it's so important that, like you said, there's always that check in place. So, because you could receive a legitimate invoice, which is, something that you're used to paying. But if it's a new account, always question that and have that process in place.
Is there any other way that we can protect ourselves, especially around that email security?
Around your emails, yes, and there are some processes to put in place. But for this particular one, there's no spam filter that would block it, because it is coming from a trusted source. Otherwise, you could then, end up blocking all of your emails from your clients, which might be nice to give you a quiet afternoon, but probably you wouldn't want to do that moving forwards. So, when we're talking about invoices and, payments, it is making sure you have that manual check in place, because if a hacker's got into your inbox, it's not going to be showing up in spam filters. Other than that, in terms of, your email security, you can put in some additional spam filters. So like there's a software called MailGuard, which integrates in with Outlook, which you can have spam filters on. But the most important thing is about securing your passwords. So, because when a hacker is breaking into an inbox, they're not breaking into Microsoft's data centers. It's not a weakness there. The weakness is around the password to get in. So, a hacker would either, crack a weak password. So using a brute force bot, they could crack a weak 7-character password easily. Or, what often happens as well is, people are tricked into handing over their passwords. So, through phishing emails. So, you'd receive an email saying there's an issue with your Office 365 account. Log in here to verify your details, and then you put in your username and password, and then the hacker has your details then.
Yeah, so we're always being advised not to click into links or trust emails that are coming out to us to confirm things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I certainly, when I had a bookkeeping business, my computer was actually hacked. I had I used a computer as a server, and it was on all of the time, and it had a password, but a pretty weak password. And somebody hacked into that computer and changed the password. And there was not a lot I could do about it. Luckily, they didn't do anything that I noticed. I don't know that they could get into any softwares, but it's quite scary when you lose control, when somebody else has taken over that control. It's quite scary when that happens.
Yeah, definitely. And that's another scam we hear about as well, remote access scams. And those kind of scams have increased over the last 12 months with people, longer than 12 months now. But, since COVID and the shift to work from home, because people have been working remotely more frequently and, remotely accessing computers, remotely accessing servers. And it's exactly the same kind of risk. It stems from passwords. Hackers will, target, just go through and just try out, different server numbers and target them and try to brute force their way in. And if it's a simple password, they'll get in a few minutes. If it's a complicated 16-character password, then they're not going to break through. So then they're going to move on to the next one.
Yeah.
But it stems from the same risk as hackers breaking into systems through weak and insecure passwords.
Yeah. Has anybody on the call today had experience of being scammed or some type of security breach? Diane or Sharon? Helen?
Yeah, my client had a scam where she was emailed, and she was emailed saying about changing the bank account, and they must have got the details from another email from her, and but they called her a proper name, Suzanne, and that's how she knew, because I'd never called her Suzanne. I always called her Suze. So she rang me up saying, "Did you just send me an email to change your bank account details?"
Yeah, that's probably a classic email breach. Just logging into your email.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like that, and it's interesting. It's some of those little idiosyncrasies. Something that only you and them would know. That would that cause that one to be a red flag. But also, it's lucky that was missed in that case. But I've heard of instances where a nickname or that hasn't been missed because they also look at the email history. So it's fortunate in that case they didn't. But I've heard of other times where a hacker may be emailing and they'll look through and they'll see that when you usually email them, you call them Suze. So then they do that. So like I said, for these hackers, these are big opportunities. You're talking about tens of thousands of dollars. So they do spend time going through, looking at the sent items. So I've heard of instances which haven't been as fortunate as that.
Yeah. What are the audience currently using for their security of passwords and security of their emails? Do you want to come off mute and share what you're currently using? Sharon?
I use Trend Microsystems. Trend Micro. They antivirus and also cyber security.
Okay. Yep. Leanne, would you like to share?
I'm just setting up Practice Protect as we speak.
Lovely.
Oh, great.
And what made you jump into Practice Protect?
just wanting to avoid getting hacked. You just think if it's going to happen, it'll be to me, and it's just too important.
Yeah.
So that's why I thought, oh, look, I've got to do something.
Yeah, no, that's great, and a lot of our licensees are using Practice Protect, and of course we've got a special deal with Practice Protect, which is very nice for our licensees. But it's very important to have there's something in place. Diane, what do you have, if you don't mind sharing?
Well, I think I'm with everyone else, using like 2FA and making sure none of my passwords are readable in a sense, or common sense sort of stuff like password 123 or but yeah, it was funny, we were only having this discussion yesterday about the hot topic of cybersecurity as well. So I'm waiting to get more feedback from Leanne on how Practice Protect is going, because I was looking at that for myself as well. But yeah, mainly sort of just making sure I don't have the same passwords for things, and always using two-step authenticators as well. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really important to set up those two-step authenticators. Are they, John, how do they rate in terms of, security? Is that being that extra level, are they as good as what, we're all pushed into?
Yeah, definitely, because it adds that extra step. So, because if you've got, a weak password, if you've got password 123, a hacker could easily hack that. But then if you've got, a two-factor authenticator app on your phone, then, they wouldn't be able to get in. So it is as important as everyone says it is. It's something that we push, internally. Obviously, there's no security that is ever foolproof and 100% guaranteed. And if someone ever says that it is, then they're lying, because new technology pops up all the time. But definitely, multi-factor authentication dramatically reduces the risk of logging into those apps.
Yeah, and more companies are now bringing it into play. I don't actually know that banks do, though. Have you heard if banks are come on board with the two-factor authentication?
Well, I think it varies from bank to bank. So, and I know that, with my personal one, like I use Westpac, so I don't have to use two-factor to get in. But if I'm sending like any transfers, then I have to do two-factor authentication to approve those transfers.
Okay.
And that's it. With the banks, I'm not sure of what the other ones are. There's always a tight line, a tightrope to walk when it comes to security, and it's balancing convenience and security. So it's about finding that balance. So doing two-factor authentication every day to get in, like I don't think that's too much of a trade-off to make sure that your systems are secure.
Yeah, definitely. Helen, what do you use for your security, your password protection?
Yeah, we use Practice Protect. Hi, John.
Hey, Helen, how you doing?
And that works great. And everything I encourage, like new staff, I've set them up so that everything that's their portal. I've pretty much said you have to access emails, everything through here, even though they can do it from their phone and everywhere else. So all our main programs are accessed through there. And we also use Carbon, and what I'm preparing now is we have a lot of clients who send us bank statements directly to our emails. So I'm wanting to set up Carbon so that they are educated and they understand if they do it via Carbon, so that Carbon will send out the email at the start of the month to say, please upload when you're ready your bank statements via this link. Only because Carbon, for a client receiving that notification and they're having to attach documents, they have to use a PIN number to open up the question, so to speak, our request. So I thought, well, that's got to be more secure, because they're logging into our Carbon and just dumping their bank statements directly in there. So I'm thinking, well, there's no one intercepting that, hopefully, because they would need either our login or they would need the customer's PIN number. So it's only a 4-digit PIN. Wouldn't probably be hard to scramble with the high-tech machines that hackers have. But I thought that would just be a little bit more secure. So I'm just yeah, in the process of doing that, because I thought that would be, you know, any correspondence that we do through email with sensitive information, I want to start doing it through Carbon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Like, I've heard of other firms doing similar things. So, you know, it's good to have that separation. And also, so, you know, 'cause talk about, you know, inboxes being on the front line, so that then, you know, if someone were to get into your inbox, actually reducing the amount of sensitive information that's sat in there, you know, would greatly help you. So if you've got more of those sensitive details in Carbon, for sure that would help.
And we just, you know, the letter just states we're asking them to take off their bank details from invoices, that kind of thing that they're sending out. Yeah, just because I know that's a huge problem lately, that emails are intercepted, they're getting altered and then forwarded on. So just trying to make them aware of the issue. So we don't have bank details on our invoices because we're direct debit. And any new client or anything that is ever out of ad hoc invoiced, it's still done through practice ignition. So, you know, for our practice, I feel we've taken that out. Plus we have cyber security insurance, but for clients, I just want to have them aware of what, you know, the issues are with invoicing and you know, having your sensitive information going through emails.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And it's a really, oh, sorry.
Yeah. I said, I don't know if we're covering all bases, but it's definitely at the forefront of my mind. So
yeah, no, that's definitely spot on. And also, like, the training piece and having those conversations with clients is so important as well. So, you know, educating them about, you know, why you've got those systems in place, you know, why you're asking them to do certain things, you know, goes a long way to them, you know, understanding it and then obviously, you know, complying with it. Because also, you know, with these payment impersonation scams, a lot of the time, you know, when the invoices are sent to the bookkeeper, it's not because the bookkeeper's been hacked, it's because the client's been hacked. Okay, so, you know, it's also about making sure that your clients have good security practices, because, you know, their cybersecurity health, if you call it that, actually affects your business too. So, you know, making your clients aware of the security that you put in place for your business and educating them will help lower your risk profile as well.
Diane, was there any questions that you wanted to ask? Because we've got, well, Leanne is just onboarding at the moment, but Helen's using Practice Protect, and you came on today to find out a little bit more about Practice Protect. Was there some questions that you want to cover off?
Not specifically at this point. I think it's more of I've just got to block out some time to have a look at it and put it together and work out how it works. I think that going through that process. So discussions around, you know, we were talking yesterday about having complications with different emails and different things. So I just need to, I suppose, look at the product and know that it will work for me in that sense.
Yeah. Helen, do you want to walk through a bit of the onboarding? Because like there is a whole onboarding process.
I was just chatting. I was just sending Diane a message to say she wants me to give her a demo of our setup from a bookkeeping point of view, because I remember when we did our demo of Practice Protect, you know, with their team. It's still, I know it's from their point of view, but I'm thinking the day-to-day, how does that work? How does staff, what if they can't log in? What if this? I had all these questions. So the onboarding, surprisingly, when I already had myself and 2 other staff in place when we did the onboarding, and Practice Protect did it all for us, set up users, rang all the girls and talked them through setting up their phone and everything else. And I recently put on another 2 girls, and I can honestly say it's been a nightmare for me. Sorry, John, it's not your fault. It's my fault because it's more than a year later and I completely forgot, and I just, you know, forgot how I didn't understand how my emails are now created in Practice Protect, new emails for staff, not in my Microsoft environment. And I'm jumping, and I've got Microsoft trying to help me for the, you know, 5 days, and realizing, I kept saying to them, I think it's got something to do with this other, you know, third party that I use for security. So we've just, you know, I should have just reached out to Practice Protect and said, talk me through it again. Wasted a lot of time, but there is a bit involved, I think, with the setting up, you know, permissions and bits and pieces, and the location services in case they are overseas. Mine are fortunately in Australia, so that's something that we've blocked external people logging in. But I would just say honestly, like, yeah, the day-to-day process, that's easy. We just log into Google Chrome. We've got a little extension app thing on our toolbar, you could say. We log into that. It comes up with our, you know, general login credentials, but it's really nice because Practice Protect use orange as their branding colour, and so do we. So when you log in, I know it's a minor thing, Katrina, but this all means a lot to me. So when that got updated and changed, the girls were ringing saying, "Oh wow, did you see Practice Protect this morning? How nice does it look with the Zilch logo?" So it really looks like it's our customized app, you know, like it looks so professional. We might log in on a client's work site and they're like, wow, look at that. So number one for me is I'm not a big marketing person, but I'm a huge branding, I guess, in that sense. And I love how the interface is just, you know, a portal of, you know, our colours, you could say, logging in. We have our password, obviously, that reminds us to update it. I think, is it every 2 months, John? Something like that.
Yeah, every 90 days, I think it is.
Yeah, and then they just use their phone to get their code. And then once they've done that, they're into everything that I give them access to, basically. So in onboarding the 2 new staff, I created my apologies, I forgot to turn that off. I created their email addresses, but I had them and password, and then I would log in as them so I could see their interface. And because I never got that opportunity when I first started Practice Protect, so I wanted to just see what they see. So once I was in, I then loaded you know, programs from my admin center and set up their passwords, so they only had to worry about the one login. And just rearranged their, you know, you can customize, say your banking apps, you can put it under banking, you know, or you could put apps under each client if you want to categorize them. So when you log in, you're not dumped with, you know, a whole page full of apps. You can actually organize it for them. So I sort of spent a little bit of time doing that to make it a little bit more, you know, so they weren't logged in and being overwhelmed. Then I looked at my senior girl I employed and I thought, oh, there's too much on there. She's just going to probably freak out. So you can take them off and add them in when you want to, but it's just good. And we went through the induction with one girl yesterday and she just loved how everything's in one platform. You know, it's not a matter of you know, give her access and send her a sheet full of all these different passwords. So in that onboarding, I loved it. And now that I've had to do it personally with the help of Practice Protect, the steps to that is going to be a lot more refined as I employ more. So, you know.
Yeah, I was going to say before, Helen, systemize the onboarding.
Yeah, that's what
I've
done.
All about systems.
Yeah, I just went through all the things that, like when I contacted support, they said, oh, you need to do this. And so I just did all the steps and, you know, and for me, it's more of, okay, we employ someone and I've got now a checklist in Carbon, you know, access email, get them this, get them that, you know, little things you might forget when there was one when I was doing the induction, I said to her, oh, I forgot to set you up with that one. So it was a matter of me going off and doing that to be able for her to have access. So just, you know, just the process of it all, just as Katrina said, systemizing it. But from their point of view, the new worker, one of them said, oh, this is so fantastic. This is so professional. You're so organized. So it's, yeah, it was a nice, it was a good experience considering I had a few hiccups, but I still thought that it was definitely the ideal way to go. Yeah, so, but I just love the peace of mind. Like I just feel, you know, in a lot of aspects, like I said, from the client's point of view, from the staff member, everything's in one place, everything we use. I don't have anything that's not in Practice Protect. You know, we don't have a sheet full of passwords or anything like that. We just don't need it. So
no, that's great. Thank you so much for that, Helen. That's good. And if Diane has any other questions, you know, please pop them up now, or you know, offline, the two of you. have a bit of a chat and certainly, you know, do a demo. We do have an SOP, a standard operating procedure in PB in the Pure Bookkeeping Central under the cloud apps. I'll actually put in a landing page or a link for others that aren't licensees to get access to that standard operating procedure, which is written for Practice Protect by one of our licensees, Robin Flynn. So I'll just pop that into the Facebook at the moment. Because I think everybody on the call today is a licensee. So jump on over to PB Central to get hold of that SOP that's been written, especially for Practice Protect. But I guess, John, is there other things that we do need to consider for security if we're looking at our email security we discussed and the payment impersonations, password protection, which is very, very important. Is there other things that we need to consider for security purposes?
Yeah, definitely. But firstly, I just want to say thanks, Helen, for all of that awesome feedback. Really good to hear, about how you're using the platform and that it's, working so well for you and the team. So, yeah, look, really, really good to hear that, and appreciate everything you said there. But yeah, definitely, I guess, in terms of looking at the wider security system and, outside of Practice Protect and passwords, one thing which Helen touched on then was, hiring new team members and onboarding team members. And one thing to really consider, especially if you've got team members working remotely, is the devices that they're working from. And that's one of the big things which we're talking about with everyone working from home, is making sure that, if team members are working remotely, that they're working from secure devices. Okay, so our first recommendation for that is, if you're hiring team members, as much as possible, have them using company devices, like if possible, be giving them company laptops so that they're working from business equipment. The reason for that is that then it gives you more control around what they're using, the actual tools that they're using. Because one thing which is important is making sure that there's antivirus on that. Making sure that there's antivirus on their PC, because one of the risks that we're seeing is, say, when people are working from home, they may be working from a shared computer, a family computer, and as a business owner, obviously that's not something which you're controlling, that's outside of your domain, so don't know what their family are using or downloading onto that PC. So that's why we recommend, firstly, having a business PC. But if that's not possible, make sure that they've got some kind of antivirus on their PC, and just have that conversation with your team member and know what they're doing, and have an antivirus that you recommend.
Do you have preferred antivirus softwares that you recommend?
Yeah. I mean, there's heaps out there. I know Sharon earlier mentioned that she was using Trend Micro, so that's a really good one. We hear good things about Trend Micro. Also, another one which we've used in the past is Malwarebytes. That's a good antivirus software, but we've actually used that in the past for our own internal team. So last year, and I'll share a story around this because it kind of illustrates the risk here. But and I think this team member is actually watching this recording, so she loves being used as a case study. But we last year, back in March when we shifted to remote work, we put in the rule that all of our team members had to be working from company PCs. For one of our team members, we weren't able to get her the PC to her house, like she's one of our Philippines-based team members, and we literally just couldn't get her the PC. So before we allowed her access to any of our systems, we used Malwarebytes to run a scan on her PC, and we saw that there were 150 viruses on the PC, and that was because it was a shared PC. So her brothers use it, they downloaded games, all sorts, the kind of things, but just downloading free games. So anyway, free games, anything that comes for free, it's usually free for a reason, and it's coming with added viruses. So we used Malwarebytes to clean that up, and then once our techs had spent a couple of hours on it, allowed her to work. But really the importance about Story is, making sure that you know what devices your team members are working on and that they're secure. So, even if they're not working on a business laptop, ask them that question, find out, do you have antivirus on it? If not, get them antivirus, run a scan on it, and then you've got peace of mind about what they're using.
Yeah, great idea. And please, that is that Aarsman that's you're referring to?
No, it's not Yaz. It's another team member.
Okay.
Yeah.
If they're watching, if they're on Facebook, feel free to make comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use Malwarebytes too, and I have my IT person from years ago had put me onto that, and it's quite inexpensive as well.
Yeah.
And it seems to work.
Yeah,
really
I think it's maybe $40 for the year for the premium one. So like I said, if it's not like company devices, then at least put something like that on your team members' PCs, and then you've got peace of mind there.
Yeah. Yep. Now Jacqueline has asked a question. It is a practice protect question. So let's see how we go. How do I use emails through practice protect on the phone?
Yeah, good question, Jacqueline. So it depends. So you should just be able to use the app. So you'd be able to use the Outlook app or the Gmail app. Do you have your emails integrated with Practice Protect?
I do on my computer, but on my phone, I just access my business emails through Gmail on my phone.
Yeah.
So should I be accessing that through Practice Protect first on the phone?
No, because how it worked, you may have already done this, Ben. So when we did the integration, you would have to re-log into Gmail and log in using your Practice Protect username and password, and then you still just use the Gmail app on your phone.
Okay, so it's covered on my phone because I'm on Gmail on Practice Protect on my computer.
Because it's integrated. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
What about other apps like the software apps and that we use? If we access them on our phone? Yeah.
So we've got if you haven't downloaded it, we've got our own app, and I'll show it on the screen there. It's like the CyberArk app. So you can use that, and you can go into different ones. So say if I click on Brightcage, so we use that for reporting. Practice Protect is going to open that up as a web browser. So you can use that, but what it doesn't do currently is it doesn't integrate in with all of the native apps. So say like with the Xero app or Dext app, we don't integrate with them currently. It would launch it say in a browser.
Okay, so I'd have to launch it, open Practice Protect, and then open the app on the phone.
Yeah, so you'd open the Practice Protect app, the CyberArk app, and then you click on it, and then it would open it, but it opens it up as a browser rather than the actual application.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And what about things like Office, like Excel, Word, and all that?
Yeah.
How do we get them through Practice Protect?
Okay, so what are you using Office for? Are you just using it for Word and Excel? Do you have your emails and files stored in G Suite?
I have I have G Suite, and I use Google Drive. So
okay.
I do open G Suite for something. I open G Suite to go into my diary, my calendar.
But you use the Microsoft Office program to do Word and Excel.
Yeah.
So what are you wanting to protect?
Yeah. So when I use Excel, is it part of that G Suite that I protected? Or
because where's the data then being stored? So say if you open up, so I guess you're in Google Sheets, and then do you open up an Excel file? So you're in Google Drive, you open up an Excel file, but then you save it to Google Drive?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well then, and I guess so with your Office, do you have like just a basic Office license, just so you don't have like Office emails, you've just got a basic license to give you access to Word and Excel because you don't need Outlook?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, great. So in that instance, we wouldn't usually like integrate Practice Protect with the Office because your data's
Right.
not being stored there. The critical one for you is G Suite because that's where your emails, that's where the files are being stored. From the sounds of
Right.
what you're saying, like you're using Office for, you know, the programs themselves, but no data is being stored on SharePoint or Outlook.
No, I was saving all my Excel and Word documents on my hard drive.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm using Google Drive instead.
Okay, great. Then it sounds like, yeah, we wouldn't do any other integrations with Office because it's more of a software license rather than you know, storage or email license.
Okay, so
the
it's
Office, yeah. So the Office products are just the application, the tool that you use to create those documents, and you have your protection where those documents are stored.
Right.
So if you stored them on your hard drive, they would not be protected.
Yeah.
But if you stored them on G Drive, then if G Drive's in Practice Protect, then you're protected.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if somebody sends me something or shares a Google Drive with me, Google shares a file in Google Drive, mm-hmm. that then comes into my Google Drive, so it's protected.
Well, yes, it's, you know, behind the Practice Protect, you know, integration, which has got the, you know, geo restrictions and, you know, the two-factor authentication switched on.
Yep. So I should only access my Google Drive through G Suite through Practice Protect.
So, well, you can access, because if you've got the integration set up, if you go to Google Drive, it would then prompt you to put in your Practice Protect username and passwords before you can log in. So yes, it's, you know, you'd log into it through Practice Protect.
Okay, all right, because I've been logging into it outside Practice Protect. Mm-hmm. So I need to make sure I do that.
Yeah. Look, I'll just double check, Jacqueline, after this. I can have a look at your setup just to make sure that it is integrated with Google, and then we can take that one offline.
Yeah. Okay. Because the integration and everything was so beautifully done with Practice Protect when we did it. It was really great. But I think I'm due for a refresher course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm sure their support would be up for any type of refresher information that you require. Mm-hmm. That's what they're there for.
Yeah.
Jacqueline, we can I just add what we do? We don't access our mobile apps from Practice Protect app. So as far as our Microsoft and all that. So, but when we do access the app directly, because it is integrated, it redirects us to the password, to the Practice Protect password login. So on our phone, I could just open up my Outlook. If I'm logged out, I'll open it up and it will log me in, and it will redirect me to my Practice Protect login, but still I'm opening up that app. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So yeah, it recognizes that it's integrated and protected by Practice Protect, so it redirects me. So I don't see a Microsoft login page. I see the Practice Protect login, if that clears it up.
Okay. Because I use Google Drive, so I wasn't sure. So I'll have a refresher course instead of asking fiddly questions now.
No, it's fine. There's no silly questions. And sometimes this can be complicated because you've got different identities integrated, and also you've got, you know, you've got three, you know, we're talking about. It's not just Practice Protect. You've got Practice Protect G Suite, and then also your Office login. So I understand the question.
I need to see it in an old-fashioned flowchart.
Yeah. Here.
Yeah.
Awesome. And now I've got another question over in Facebook land. What makes Practice Protect different from other password manager apps?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. So there's a few key differences. So I'd say to start off with, the first one is that Practice Protect was built first and foremost for business. So the amount of security and control that you can have is, far greater to a lot of the other more generic retail password managers. So the amount of security that, controls you can put in around locations where people can log on, the actual auditing and tracking, and also the encryption levels are far greater than other applications. So a lot of the other retail applications, they encrypt at 256-bit. Practice Protect's encryption rate is 10 times higher at, over 2000. So that's one of the elements. And then also with Practice Protect, there's the integrations that we have. So Practice Protect, a lot of what we've spoken about today is email security. Practice Protect directly integrates in with your email system. So with Office 365 and Gmail, extending our protection around that, which most of the retail apps don't have. And then on top of that, it's the industry specific knowledge and support. So we provide full support. So we've got our onboarding team to make sure that everything is set up to standard. And then our support team moving forwards to help, with any questions like this. Also, as we're industry specific, we don't just help with the software application. We've also got a package of compliance documents available to all of our clients to help ensure that you're compliant with your cyber insurance policies. And we also do monthly cybersecurity training. So those are some of the key areas for key differences.
Fantastic. All right. So is there any other questions, or anybody else want to come off mute to talk through an issue that they're having, or get some more ideas around cybersecurity? Anybody on Facebook land have any questions? No.
So Practice Protect virtually covers us for everything we need to be covered for as far as cybersecurity goes, other than our virus checking.
Yeah, I mean, I'd never say everything because, like I said earlier, there's no security company that could ever say, we cover you for everything. It's 100% guaranteed. So I'd always shy away from that. But yeah, definitely. So Practice Protect, what it covers is your passwords. So when you're talking about your password and your access security, that's what we cover. But then, with security, there is other elements like you touched on there, antivirus to secure your computers.
Doesn't it stop people getting into our things to start with, not just protect our passwords?
So securing your passwords, which is then stopping people from getting into your applications. It's stopping people from getting into your email. Right. So Google, your Gmail, it's securing that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Correct.
Angela,
question.
Yeah.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
I'm trying to multitask and work at the same time and listen. So what are the subscriptions for the pricing for Practice Protect? Do you know what they are roughly, sort of thing?
Yeah.
Because I'm just kind of starting off, so I don't think that at this stage, because I'm not employing people, I kind of don't need that yet. But once I do grow the business, that's something I'll definitely look at getting.
Yeah, so for Practice Protect, so there's two different options of pricing. So it's per user pricing. So it's $12 US per user if you pay monthly, or $10 per user per month if you pay annually.
Yep.
And then there's an onboarding fee of $599 US.
$599.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there is a five user minimum.
Okay.
Now, that is the standard pricing. We do have some preferred pricing for pure bookkeeping members. So pure bookkeeping members can get a discount on the onboarding by $200. And also the minimum users decreases from 5 to 3.
5 to 3 users.
So Angela is a pure bookkeeping licensee.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's because I'm just starting off. You know, these are good things to look into getting once I start growing the business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
So,
good.
yeah, I like the fact that, like you mentioned, the Malbites, that program, because if it's cheap malware bites, so I'll probably look at getting that from the computer. Sort of thing. So
yeah, that's just really protecting websites, malware bites.
Yeah,
people hacking in. As Jacqueline says, I don't employ anyone, but I have practice protect so I can sleep at night.
yeah, definitely. But, you know, there's you know, we work with other, you know, a lot of other, you know, sole practitioners, you know, solo, you know, bookkeepers. You know, he just want to have that additional security.
Yeah. I know of a company that lost over $600,000 through an email, changing bank accounts on emails and things. So that got me scared. And then also the fact that if you do get hacked like that, you lose your, like someone gets into your programs and you get tax file numbers and stuff, the fines and penalties for that are pretty high. So I wanted to be able to protect myself and my clients so that they know that whilst it's on my computer, it's covered.
And it's a good feature for as a sales, you know, as part of your sales as well, that everything is covered and that you're professional, you've factored that in. John, can you talk to that about the insurance and what are you sued? What is the responsibility that a bookkeeper has to keep the client's figures protected? And you know what are the ramifications, the penalties or sue?
Yeah, definitely. I think one thing which I could speak to is the insurance perspective, because this question comes up quite frequently, because we've seen there have actually been some instances where, you know, bookkeepers, you know, accounting firms as well have had breaches, and the insurance company hasn't paid out because they've demonstrated that the firm, you know, the bookkeeper hasn't taken due diligence. So, you know, and we're now seeing that when you have cyber insurance quotes, they're actually asking you to fill out forms to say, you know, do you have a system in place for access management? Do you provide monthly training to your team? Do you have a cyber privacy policy? And that's a big part of, you know, what we do. That's why we don't just have a platform. We have the training, we have the security documentation, because all of that is needed for compliance. And if you don't have that, then, you know, insurance companies are using that as a way of, you know, invalidating your claim, because, you know, you can understand it from their perspective. You know, they don't want to insure people if they've got no security in place. You also need to mitigate your risk as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And as Helen has mentioned, that the insurance is reduced if you have practice protect, which is probably what you just said. Definitely. Well, no, that was more about suable. So do you have a relationship with a lot of insurance agencies so that the insurance is reduced, or is it because of all of the stuff that you provide? Then it's like having locks on your windows. Your insurance is cheaper. Yeah,
there's both. So there are some insurance providers who we have, like, you know, those direct agreements with. So they'll say, yes, if you use Practice Protect, we'll give you a reduction because we've got that relationship. But then also others, you know, the firms that work with us, you know, they can tick all of the boxes, so they'll get a reduced quote by, you know, having that compliance. Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Good to know. Yeah. Awesome. But yeah, I spoke more about the insurance side then, because in terms of, you know, being sued and on that side, I don't really have the expertise as much on that. I was on, you know, speaking on Bookkeeping Radio, the ABN webinar a couple of weeks ago, and they were asking about that there as well, because there's a case going on at the moment between a bookkeeper and their client where there was a payment impersonation scam. So the bookkeeper paid, I can't remember the exact amount, but maybe, you know, $50,000. And now they're contesting, you know, who's at fault. Is it the client because their inbox was hacked, or was it the bookkeeper because they, you know, paid the invoice? I think that's still ongoing, but from suing in that point, it can get very murky because you could argue both sides. But the client was one that was hacked, but then obviously the bookkeeper processed the payment.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, interesting. I'd love to, just as we're just finishing up, perhaps if you could pop in the comments or come off mute what your takeaways are of today. Like, what have you learnt that you didn't know when you started this call? What are you going to do differently for this, after this? Pop it in the chat. Jump over to the Facebook if you like and pop it over there as well. What you have, what's your takeaway from today? What have you learned? And in the meantime, if there's any other questions, Angela, did you have any other questions? You're off mute still, so just.
Oh yeah, no, it's good. It's just that, like, I wish I could use Practice Protect now, but if it's only one user, then I can't really. I mean, if it's minimum 3 users, then I can't really utilize that program. So I just have to put that on the cards for next year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you can utilize it, but you're talking about the fee.
As in, like, did you say I had to have minimum 3 users on it?
Well, free licenses. So, like Jacqueline said, you can sign up. So it could just be yourself using it, but there's about 3 license minimum. So it would be $36 per month for free licenses. But you can still use it.
Yeah,
but I'd still have to pay that amount, wouldn't I? Sort of thing.
Yeah, you got to pay for the 3 users. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I don't I don't know the answer to this, so I will ask it. What if you have your you had your business as a user and a personal as a user and your husband's business as a user? Is that is that 3 users? Is that?
Yeah. So you could have that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Until you get staff and then you kick your husband off and you.
I don't have one anymore.
Your staff in. Well, you might have use for I don't know, the family member or whatever as a user, as a potential. I'm not sure.
And you can select which files they have access to or which programs they have access to. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so everyone's got different access, and it may be that if you do give access to a family member, that you wouldn't set up any apps yourself, but they could just use the Practice Protect. It's got a feature called Land and Catch where you can just automatically add applications. So they could do that just to add in Netflix, Spotify, Disney Plus, Stan, all the streaming sites.
That feature's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is that on your phone app, or is that?
No, so it's on the website. So it's on the desktop. So the browser app.
Yeah.
There in the end.
Smart TVs. I just don't get smart TVs. They're much smarter than I am. Like get into a password of a Netflix. It's just like using Practice Protect. I'm not going there.
Yeah.
Sounds not too hard. All right. So so Sharon is about to ring her insurance company. Awesome. That sounds like a good idea. All right. So any last comments from anyone? Just finishing up. All good. All right. Oh, Diane.
I was just going to ask, just on what you were saying then, so as an additional user to a family member, they could have it to protect them like on another PC in the house. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So
even though they're not part of the business.
Yeah. So it's per license. So yeah, and they could, so it's not Practice Protect, like it's not like loaded onto your computer. It's a browser app. So you can have it and you can log on from however many different computers you want. And yeah, you could have different family members log in and from many devices.
So your other family member could have the apps that relate to what they want. So it could be the bank and their email and their private websites that they access with a password. They could have those uploaded as their user, because you can allocate which apps are seen by which user. Is that right?
Is there a reason why Practice Protect won't just sell one license?
Yeah, so it's because as a business, for it to be viable with all of the work that goes into setup and everything, that, there's about 3 user minimum, which is only for pure bookkeeping. So I should stress, I know everyone on here is, a pure bookkeeping member, but if there's anyone watching on Facebook, that's not something which we do publicize. It's not, a wider deal available.
Yeah, the retail is five users.
Yep.
Lovely. Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for attending. It was quite a good interactive, lots of questions answered, and a great opportunity for John to share his knowledge around the cybersecurity and talk on a specialised basis as well for those that had some questions specifically around Practice Protect and learn a little bit more about it. So thanks, John, for sharing your knowledge. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
and,
no, great. Thanks everyone for your time, and thanks for having me, Katrina.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Everyone have a lovely day. Thanks. See you all.
Thanks, everyone. See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.